welcome to the 15th episode of the Powerless Podcast. This week, I am talking to Billy Zee, who is the vocalist of the post-hardcore band Amora out of Pennsylvania. We talk about Billy's start and the interest of this kind of music, where it all came from, as well as the start of their band. We get into the weeds a bit of some of the different things that Billy does in the music industry, some of the different jobs he does when it comes to the live music scene in his area, and different bookings, different ventures in that regard, the band's different shows, what it's been like to play at like an emo night and things like that, as opposed to a typical show, and the pros and cons of that. And we also get into talking a bit about one or two of their songs off of their latest EP that we dive into. We talk about my favorite song, two of my favorite songs from their latest EP. One of them is Stay Pony Golden Boy. We talk about the lyrics a lot in that one. We had kind of decided ahead of time that we would do a deep dive on that one because it is very pertinent to people that are trying to just make it with their dreams in music and make the music about the music, and some ways that is difficult in this day and age when it comes to being in a band or being an artist in any way. And we also talk a little bit about the song Dollar Store Christ, as well as just kind of talking an array of different things from the full album release they did in the past to this EP, to kind of what's going on with the band in the future. So I really appreciate that Billy came on with me to do this. Again, if you wanna reach Amora, they are AMORAPA on all social media. You can find them on Instagram. They don't really use Twitter too much, but they do have a Twitter and Bandcamp as well. You can find me at the Powerless Pod on all social media. You can email me at thepowerlesspod@gmail.com. If you want to be on the show, if you're an artist, whether it's a musician, songwriter, could branch out even from there if you do graphic design for bands, or if you do anything in that vein as well. And also, if you are interested in politics and social issues, that is some of what we talk about on this podcast as well. The previous episode I put out last week was with my good friend Shabir Rizvi. We talk about his trip to Iran. We talk about kind of social political issues involving Iran in relation to the United States, and sanctions and propaganda and all those kinds of things. As well as an anti-war movement. We've had a couple of different episodes in that vein as well. So again, if you're into political social issues, if you're into if you're anywhere in the music industry or in a band, please reach out if you want to be on the show. We have a couple of really good bands coming up in the future here. We've got Guardrail was recorded. Kevin Andrew from Guardrail will be on the next episode after this. Also just recorded with a great Chicago band called OK Cool. We get into a bit of their upcoming EP that'll be out in a couple of weeks as well. There's a couple of their really cool guests that are being recorded this week and next week, and some more booked for the future. So again, I really hope you guys appreciate this episode with Billy. Keep an eye out for the other episodes that'll be coming in the future. And I'll try to keep this intro as short as I can. So here is Billy Zee from Amora on the Powerless Podcast. There we go. Billy, it's nice to talk to you. I'm talking to Billy Zee today from you're from Philly, right? That's where you're out from.
Yeah, like right outside of Philly, like in the suburbs.
Cool.
It's not
cool. All
Philly
right.
proper. It's like I grew up in Doylestown. Now I live in Sellersville.
I gotcha. So yeah. for people out of town like me, it's Philly-ish, right?
Yeah, Philly-ish.
Yeah. All right. So go ahead and tell the people. I know you've got a few different things. We have, obviously, you've got your band. You're also got a couple of other jobs here that are kind of affiliated with the music industry. Yeah. So before I accidentally miss something, why don't you just go ahead and list what you do in your band, what your band name is, and kind of the different roles you have in live music.
Yeah, so my name is Billy. My last name is Zee. That is my actual real last name. I'm not joking about that. I sing in a band called Amora. We are currently signed to Heading East Records. I work at... Sorry, I'm like trying to get into like the podcast zone. I haven't done one of these in a while. I'm a house manager and a booking agent at a venue called Sellersville Theater. It is a 325 cap seated theater in Sellersville, PA. If I haven't said Sellersville enough already in the last like minute. beautiful venue. I work with bands all day, so when I house band, it's just kind of like being a promoter rep, where you're getting the band in, you're getting their green room set up, you're working with the bands all day, you're getting them on stage, you're getting them paid, like you're making sure they're having a good time, and you're making sure the show's happening. And when I do booking, I work with I'm the support booking agent, so I get like a lot of like smaller acts on bigger shows. And then when on the side, like I am an independent show promoter. One of them being like one of the venues is Sellersville Theater. I just had one of my first full, like not just support, but full shows there. But I also book at the Yard in Ambler, Pennsylvania. It's a warehouse skate park. And I'm starting to book at Maxwell's on Main Street, aka Mom's in Doylestown, which is like a craft beer bar. And honestly, if any place comes up that has the opportunity, like I can make something work there.
Yeah. So that's like full tilt in the music industry on like every on the ground thing you can think of, right? Yeah. So that's great. So we'll get into all that because I think there's a few things that have come up recently that would be kind of cool to get the opinion of from somebody that's both like in a band and kind of works in a venue and different things like that.
Yeah.
But I think we should start off obviously with your band. You know, you're the vocalist in this post-hardcore band Amora when I had heard one or two of your songs, I think through a music group that we're both in. But
Lead Singer Syndrome, baby.
Yeah, Lead Singer Syndrome.
Access Club.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And so I had heard a few songs and liked it, you know, but like as things go, like things get lost in the noise, and I probably didn't check out the whole catalog. But when you and I talked a bit, I listened to it, and you know what struck me about your guys' music is like obviously like it's not like it doesn't sound like you guys are like from a different time, that like you're not in the current stage as far as production goes or lyrical content or things you guys work on, but you guys have a very like classic post-hardcore sound where I feel like a lot of bands now, which I think is cool because I think a lot of bands now, even bands that I really like and like my own music that I write in my spare time, we go to like the lowest tunings possible, right? You go to like throwing in as many like a lot of bands now kind of do a lot of the new metal influence like samples and stuff like that in music, which I love, don't get me wrong.
Dude, same here. I'm a huge Glassjaw fan, like, you know, I love stuff like that.
Yeah, but it was cool to listen through, especially your guys' latest EP, Cutting Teeth, and kind of hear, you know, a band. I mean, I'm saying new. You're not new, like at least from your bios, you've been around since 2014, right? Since it originally started. But you guys have a very like classic, like I think of like some of those like probably some bands that you're a big fan of too, like some of those classic like Victory Records or
I got
like
Thursday tattoo on my wrist.
Okay, exactly. Like Victory Records kind of like post-hardcore bands when that scene really blew up, or like you know, obviously with the Lead Singer Syndrome stuff, you and I both have like Silverstein that influences like some of the music that we listen to.
For sure. Yeah, Silverstein's like one of our favorite bands of like, you know, like Tristan and I, like Tristan's our guitar player and vocalist, like him and I have been friends since we were like 14, and Silverstein was one of the bands like we bonded over.
Yeah, absolutely. So like you can really hear that in the music in a cool way that like it's not like you're ripping any of that old sound off, but there's like more of that influence in it than I think a lot of other bands, you know, currently still kind of on the up and coming level are. So kind of starting back with you guys, and then we'll get into the newest music. You gave me the lyrics to one of the songs. I think that would be cool to go through and talk about the music industry a bit and all that kind of stuff. But when did this band actually start for you? And also even going back before that, I know I'm kind of going around here a little bit, but what first got you started like doing music, getting into this kind of alternative post-hardcore, you know, scene, whatever the hell people call it, music growing up or things of that nature?
All right. So we're starting with like getting into the music itself. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny, man. I'm trying to think. I didn't like this type of music at first, honestly. Like I thought it was like weird. I didn't really get it. And I think, I mean, that's the beauty of like gateway bands is like, you know, they get you into it and then you can't get out.
Right.
So a long time ago, I think, really enough, one vague memory I have, and I don't know how I ended up on it, but it was like when I was starting to like figure out music, like I was in like 5th grade, and my twin brother and I shared a room, and we had this super small TV, and I think he was asleep. I'm pretty sure he was asleep. It was a school night, and I put on MTV2 Headbangers Ball. Like, I was just flipping through channels, and I remember I saw like the Devil Wears Prada in there and like someone else. But what stuck with me was the writing on the walls under a video. For whatever reason, I thought that was the coolest thing I've ever seen. And like, for whatever reason, like, I was just like starting to understand it. Like, because the topic of emo kids was like coming up, and like, you're only a kid. You're in 5th grade, so people are like making fun of emo or like, whatever jokes they had about it, and you never really like took the time to like listen and understand it. And you're like, wow, this is like really cool. I kind of like this. And that video is one of the best videos of all time. Sadly, though, after that time, we didn't have the internet. I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have a laptop. Like, we didn't have internet, so I forgot about that video for years. And then I was on MySpace, and
classic.
Yeah. I don't remember how this totally happened, and I'm about to tell you like 2 different things that kind of coincide with each other. I just forget where in the timeline they land. But I met a kid who was in a local band. I didn't even know like local bands existed, and me and him talked and ended up becoming like really good friends. And he was like maybe like 10 minutes from me, and like he would always send me like, it was funny, man. He would send me bands, and like I'll be like, I don't know if I fuck with this, man. Like, I don't know if I don't know, because they would all be like deathcore bands. And then he sends me.
Oh yeah.
I was looking at. So I looked up a band he sent me, and it was like Oasis. I'm like, oh, this is sick. He's like, no, dude, not Oasis. Born of Osiris. And I was like, oh, Oasis is still cool. But then I started like, that kid was getting me into like deathcore and like really heavy shit, and like I think some of those bands included like Parkway Drive, Asking Alexandria. I will say those first 2 albums are rippers. I will say.
I think I was the same boat. I was like in high school when that one came out, and it was a big one for me. I sometimes cringe at that idea, but it's like, no, man, it's fine. It got a lot of us into that kind of music,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, dude. Like, those bands are so good. I was listening to fucking Devil Wears Prada to like their new stuff, and I'm like, dude, this is so good. Like, I love like watching like those bands like come up and not be held to nostalgia. But yeah. And he was just getting me like, Amira was another one. For whatever reason, I'm a huge Amira fan. Like, always thought they were like heavy as shit. Yeah. And then like slowly and surely, I just started meeting people and started going to shows and started just like experiencing that in like the local scene. Like, Doylestown is huge for Balance Composures from Doylestown. Like, I went to the same high school as them.
Love that band.
Yeah, Super Heaven's also from the area. Like, there's a lot of like Pinks from the area. There's a lot of bands that are like from our area, and like, but like growing up, like Balance and Composure was like, if you know, and because they weren't big at the time. Even when I was like in 8th grade. I think I just finished like shoveling driveways with my friends, and I hit up their Facebook asking to buy a shirt, and we didn't have Big Cartel or anything back then. So John Simmons gave me his number. They drove to my house. Like, John and Eric drove to my house in the most like crapped out like Toyota Camry ever. And then we talked about Holocong Middle School, where we all went to, and they sold me a shirt. I thought that was a cool scene.
So like, yeah, at like 14, 15, you get a little bit of a look into like what being in a band is actually like.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that was like, Only Boundaries just came out. Like, no one knew who they were. Like, that was like 2007, I think. So yeah.
Oh yeah, that's pretty far back.
Between that, just like going to shows, I think I saw like I think the moment that did it for me, though, like I went to a local show here, I went to a local show there. A couple of my friends invited me to go see. It was like, what was it? Okay, actually, a promoter for RevGen, like the festival. I think you might know the festival. It's like a Christian metal festival. I was like driving around Doylestown, giving out free tickets for like the day before, because I don't think it was selling well. And I was trying to go. My mom wouldn't let me. And I was like, dang. And then like 2 of my friends were like, hey, dude, we're going to the show in like New Jersey. Do you want to go? I'm like, yes, please. And I think like I didn't know like what to expect, because like in my mind, I'm like, oh my god, we're going to go to like an arena. It's gonna be like seated. It's gonna be huge. Meanwhile, we're pulling up to this bar called Hangar 84 in Violent, New Jersey, and the tour is We Came as Romans headlining. It's We Car, In Fear and Faith, fucking Upon a Burning Body, Confide and Abandon All Ships in like a small 200 cap bar, and there was like stage diving and all this shit, and it was sold out. And like, dude, that was the craziest thing I've ever seen. And like I was trying to get a shirt signed by everybody in the band, and I feel bad because like I would go up to some of the guys and be like, "Hey, yo, are you in this band? Like, sign this," and like it would be the wrong band, you know, because it was an intern slave shirt, but they were all cool about it. And I bumped into the venue owner thinking he was in one of the bands, and he's like, "No, I'm not in the bands. I own the venue, but here, I'll take you backstage." And like the backstage area was like a parking lot.
Right. Yep. Like that reminds me. I've said this on this podcast, I think with the first episode I did, but similar thing for me where like I kind of was at local shows here and there or whatever, but the first metalcore scene, whatever show I went to that was like kind of notarized bands, it was in like this beat up venue that got shut down and like everything else in Joliet, Illinois. And the lineup was we came as Romans headlining right before it was before To Plant a Seed came out. And then but the show went like the opener was Broadway, then it was a Mice and Men. Then a Mice and Men, then I See Stars.
That's crazy.
And no. Yeah, no, then we came as Romans, and then headlining was I See Stars. Like, it was like a really weird time, you
That's
know?
so
like,
sick, though.
Yeah. And the same kind of thing where I was like, my friend was bringing me to this place. I'm like, oh, like, are we going to be at this big venue? Because like the only other place I'd been to was like the Chicago Amphitheater for some pop group or something, right? And then like, no, there's like people getting nosebleeds in the middle of the show from mosh pits, and like the band just like hanging out, like you said, like by the van right before they go to White Castle or something, right? Like, but in a way, it's like a cooler experience, you know. It kind of gets you into it, right? Like it really pulls you in, right?
Yeah, to me, like that's what made it like real. It was like the fact that like you're seeing like, you know, because like growing up, like before I really figured out I really wanted to do music, I was like struggling to figure out what I wanted to do. And when you see like being in that room, I felt so at home. I felt so good. I just played my first show around that time too, and there were some people from that show that were there. And like just knowing like I'm in a room and like there's people doing this for a living and stuff, I was like, I can do this shit too. And that's kind of what led me to do it. And that being said, now I know how I got into like playing was like all my friends play guitar and they all had like Epiphone Les Pauls, Epiphone SGs, like stuff like that. And I was grounded from AIM, like AOL Instant Messenger. And I was like, screw that. And I go on and I put on like the radio, and like this one song, it was like Life is Beautiful by 6 a.m. Like Nikki Sixx's side project was on. I'm like, dude, this song rips. And then like I watched the video and I see him with the Thunderbird bass, and I'm like, I want that. And I actually do have one. I was playing bass for a while, but I wasn't really like the best, and I could have probably taken lessons, but I couldn't afford them and all that stuff. So yeah. And then one day, I don't know, vocals kind of just happened where like I was like, you know, this could be kind of cool. And then a friend's band asked me to do a guest spot with them at a show, and I was like, all right, yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, right. It's so funny how that happens for so many people in this kind of music too, where like everybody starts doing, we've probably both heard this on another podcast too before, but like everybody starts doing something else, and then you just kind of find yourself doing the vocals, and then you figure out you're pretty good at it, right? Like, or like it really makes sense for you to do that kind of aspect of the music. So that's sick though. So you still have the Thunderbird bass?
I still have it, yeah. That thing has memories. Awesome. I thought about getting rid of it because it kind of just sits there and it needs a lot of work. And I haven't picked up bass guitar in a while, so. But I don't know. I might repurpose it. You know, it's a lot of history for me. Absolutely.
So that's sick. So that's kind of how you got going with your first shows, kind of playing, and then going to that first concert and everything else.
Yeah.
When did when was that in relation to? Because your band started in around 2014. So was that a couple of years before?
I want to say like
really
2011. I want to say like 2010 or anywhere from 2009 to 2011. Because like, okay, sorry, you're making me. I'm like going through all these memories. I'm starting to piece them together. I gotta have like a timeline for this. But
it's okay to be all over the place. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, in 2009, though, I did like my first like concert. I guess like okay, so We Car came right after it, but my first concert was like Bayside and Hawthorne Heights on the Zoomies couch store playing at the mall down the street from me, and like in the parking lot.
Classic.
And that was cool.
That's awesome.
And so that was 2009, and then I saw, then I saw the We Car show, and then I saw another show, and that was like 2009, 2010-ish. And so I started just going to shows like a little by little and having friends invite me. And then Amora started around 2014. And this was after like me and Tristan, who I mentioned earlier, like we were trying so hard to like make bands with people and they weren't sticking. And, we just kept trying, and we pretty much like, I think this is going into your next question, like how did the band really begin? This kid came through I worked at Wendy's. Funny shit, I worked at Wendy's. Talk about it, come up. I was in the drive-through window, and a kid comes through with a Warped Tour shirt on, and I compliment it. And because there's only so much, it's us versus them. Like there's only so much of us. And he found me through a mutual friend, and hit me up and wanted to start a band. And I was our original guitar player, Tyler, and he had a drummer, which is Brian, our drummer now, and. Mm-hmm. He's like, yo, we want to do like this type of style. And Tristan was always more of like the pop punk kid. I was always more of like the heavy melodic hardcore, deathcore, like emo, like, like whatever. Like, but we always had like bands that like we, were the same on. And we made a joke like, it'd be cool if we like did like 2 bands and like we would tour together and do this stuff. And then they were like talking about making plans like right there on the spot. Like, hey, we want to meet in like Doylestown at your Wendy's. Just because we're all local, like ASAP. And I was like, huh. And Tristan's like, yo, throw me in this, man. I want a part of this too. Me, Tristan, Tyler, and Brian all met up, and it was the funniest thing. Like, I don't know these guys at all.
Right.
Brian looks at all of us, and he's like, are y'all any good?
Right. That's the next question, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then we decided to start the band from there. We had a practice, and we had another bass player, and we were trying to him out, and like Alex Tebow is the man. I love him. Shout out to him if he hears us. But he just had so much going on at the time, and we were kind of like, all right, we need someone that has like a little less on their plate. And we were practicing, and then Nick came into the picture. Nick hit me up on Facebook, and from his profile picture, he had like, how do I do it? Like this bowl cut like this.
Well, yep.
And like I couldn't tell who he was. I'm like, oh man, this guy's scary, but he wants to be in it, so let's do it. And then he shows up like, oh, we met at a show before. Right. Then Nick got into the band, and same thing happened to him. Are you any good? And then as time has gone on, Tyler left the band, and then we got Chris in the band. And Chris plays guitar, does vocals. Actually, everybody does vocals at some point. So if I say they just do an instrument, everybody has done vocals at some point in this band.
That's great. Yeah.
And Chris played in like a bunch of like bands like that we would play with, and like we start to get, we got like, this is like years ahead. Like this is, I want to say like 2018, 19-ish, because like for a while we were just a 4-piece, and we were starting to demo our record, Martyr, and I think actually no, we were starting to record it, and we got like the first mixes back, and Tristan and Nick were like, hey, we're gonna listen to mixes in the car, and we want to join. And Chris like, yeah, sure, I'll join. And Chris I think they played them How Blue the Ocean is like the first mix of it, and Chris was like, damn, like this is like shit I really want to play. And let me tell you this, I love Chris, and Chris loves us. Like we're all homies. Chris did not like our band for a bit. He did not like our band musically, because like our first EP and shit, we had no idea what we were doing. So
that's how it goes, right?
Yeah, and like it's nothing on like Dylan on like our production guy Dylan who did it, because like Dylan's phenomenal. He works for like Hey 5-6 now and stuff. But like we just had no idea what we were doing. We didn't record to a metronome. I think we were one of the first records he even recorded, and we were just trying to go. For whatever reason, like he showed me, I don't know if you know the band Seisha. Like he showed me Seisha right before us recording. I love that band now. I'm like, it's like, oh, you got to go for this raw screamo type sound, and it worked in ways, and in other ways we look back are like, it's right. And like that's the thing, we started becoming this live band that was always like cool, play with, fun to see, and like all that. But our music on studio just sucked, and. Yeah, that's how Chris kind of felt about us, was like, like they're cool, like they hustle, they book shows, they do this, but their music sucks. And then like, so getting that validation from Chris about How Blue, and him being like, damn, dude, like, I want to play this stuff really hard, like, and it's like, do you want to? And we were about to play at Siren Records in Doylestown. It was in 2017. Yeah, okay, so it was 2017, and he kind of didn't really join the band until 2018. And we all huddled in a group. Then we like looked like, it was like kind of like, we're all huddling. And we like look at him, and we're all huddling again. And then Brian walks his way up to Chris, and he's like, "So, you any good?"
That's all that matters, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of how it went. We had our first practice. Like when we rewinding, we had like a practice, and then we had another practice. We wrote Hollow Bastion, and then I was really scared of Brian at the time, even though like I'm not scared of him now. I love him. But he's like, I want 3 shows by the end of the summer. And it was June, and I got his 3 shows in August.
Nice. Hey, that's good though, man. That's hustle right there, right? Yeah. Like that's what you got to do when you're first starting off. Even like I'm sure you guys were awesome live, but like even regardless of how good you are when you're first starting off, part of the biggest thing, in my opinion anyway, like is just like setting those things for yourself, like making yourself go out there, you know what I mean? Like, cause that's what gets you the passion and gets you like improving. Cause nothing makes you improve better than your first couple of shows and everything else too. Right. So that's the way to go.
Yeah.
So you started off, the band started that way, kind of coming in and out with some members as most bands do. Right. It's super rare that you hear of some of your favorite bands and like, they're like, yeah, we've all literally been together since since we were freshmen in high school or something. That's just not how it goes, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
But kind of going forward from that, so you referenced your first EP, right, which came out, it was in lieu of, right, came out in 2016. Wait,
was it 2016? I think it might have been.
I'm just looking at Spotify. I'm just going off of Spotify.
It came on Spotify later because I didn't know how to do that. So it was originally March 2015. That's when that came out.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah. So 2015, your first EP comes out.
Yeah.
Is that the one you were talking about? That's like, that was recorded in that way that you're talking about, no metronome, all that kind of stuff, or was it a little?
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, hey, but you know what? You got to start. So, and you know what? Like, there's some bands that have done that, to your guys' credit a little bit. You guys were talking about the more raw sound, but I think it was it Knocked Loose that like, one of their records they put out not that long ago, like we're talking a couple of years ago, like 2018, 2019, they recorded, I heard them on a podcast, they recorded without a metronome. And I was like, that seems
was that
insane.
Pop Culture?
It might have been.
I don't remember
which one it was, but like, you know what I mean? It's like that is just like absolutely wild to me that in this day and age, a band would still choose like, screw it, no metronome, we're just going to go raw. But it worked for them, you know? Yeah. So it is what it is, right? But, you know, you had your single Martyr, you had How Blue, like you referenced, that was your first song that kind of like got your newest member into the band and really kind of showcased what you guys wanted to do. Had another single after that. And then you had a full-length album, right, in 2018, Martyr, that you were referencing, right? So one, like for a local band putting out a full record like around that time, that's a pretty daunting task. Did you go to that same
low-key?
Did you? Yeah. Go ahead.
No, you finished the question.
No, just like what kind of, you know, that early on, because like I've always, you know, I was in music projects off and on and you know, played in a lot of bands and put out a lot of music and stuff, but I never got to do a full length record like that I really wanted to when I was in every local band, right? But like I think a lot of people kind of shy away from it for one, the money, right? And two, like you're kind of cutting your teeth, not to do a pun here, but you're cutting your teeth in in music, and it's hard to get, I think, people when you're an up and coming band to check out. Even in 2018, even more so now, right, with the people's attention spans and stuff, to check out 12 songs from a band they haven't heard of before, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, what was kind of the thought behind that, and did you guys kind of get out of it what you wanted to when you put that record out?
Danny, that's an amazing question. So I think we were just trying to figure out where to go because, like, you know, you see bands like they release EPs and there was like a split EP snuck in there. The split isn't like complete on Spotify because it's split between like both of our like Spotify's, but it was like us and a band called Above the Mendoza, and we had like Father Like Son and Gallows Run, and those were the songs on there. And then we recorded them for that album. And I think at that time, like when we did the In Lieu of release show, we played Like Father and Gallows, and those songs weren't even out yet, and they wouldn't be out for a while. So that being said, I guess we were just like looking at the next thing to do, and like us growing up, like I feel like when you start a band at kind of like such an early age, you're doing what everybody's doing around you, and not really like, because like now we're in a whole different world of like music and like you said, attention spans and all that. But to us, it was like, all right, put out an EP, put out a full length, and I think that's kind of like where that came from. We were just always like writing songs. It's weird. We're a funny band. Sometimes we'll put out something and like when we're doing the release show for it, we'll play like new music that isn't even out yet. Just because we're always writing. And, you know, I'll say this, like in our band, and from my perspective, we have some of the best instrumental writers ever. And that's because I love all these guys dearly, and they're talented as shit. And so it's always like kind of like there's always kind of something like pumping out, or like we're always like trying to like, all right, let's write some new stuff, even if we just put out stuff like recently. So that's kind of where it started coming from. We had all these songs we were just writing, and then it just kind of accumulated into a full length. And then we recorded it and like just put it out, and it was cool. You know, like I still remember our album release show for it. Like we packed out this fucking Legion Hall like in Lansdale, and I just remember like we had lights. We had an intro. Like the intro was like, if you listen to the album in full, at the end of I Felt Haunted, it's the beginning of Goodnight backwards. So it loops into itself. And we had that, we had the clip of that, and it was extended, and it was extended, and we introed with that. And like we played the album in full, and then like one of our old songs, like Hollow Bastion. And that was like the whole set. And then I remember the end of the set, like we were ending and people actually chanted one more song. Like it was an actual encore. And even like the beginning of that show when we played Goodnight and everybody's singing along to the words, and that was the coolest shit. Like that was the coolest thing, was everybody was singing along to things. And that album started getting us on like different shows, better shows. It got us like start like touring here and there. And it was like really cool, and it felt good to it felt good to have that, you know. It felt good to have something. Now the cons of it, I will say, is like looking back, like I think we could have maybe done like a couple EPs, because like one band I think of constantly is like a band that we constantly like, a band that we know and like that we've grown with is Kawanashi, who are on Equal Vision Records. You probably know them now. And like Kawanashi was like dropping like EP and EP and EP, and like, you know, you were seeing like how like they would drop like a few new songs, and it would just like, you know, grow and grow and grow. And then they did a full length. And, you know, that's my one. Sometimes I look back and I kind of wish we went like that route a little bit. And, you know, trying to have people like listen to a whole record is kind of hard in this day and age. You know, it's a very single dominated like industry, and you have to be like quick, catchy and all that. So sometimes like putting your all your thought, all your everything into something, it can work, but you know, just as it is important to write really good songs and to have really good everything, the thing that is equal to none the same is putting it out, how you're promoting it, and what's next. And and
I think to that point though, I think it's tough, and like obviously you work on other sides of music, so you know those things, especially now obviously and everything else, but like it's tough, I think, for people in bands, especially in music like this, that's so like, you know, the word emo comes from being, you know, really making really emotional music, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So you're thinking of it from like a super art perspective, which is a good thing. Like I think people like that. That's why people are drawn to this kind of music. But then, like you said, like there's this whole other aspect to it that whether you want to call it like promotional, business side, whatever, like you do have to think about that if you want your music to go anywhere, right? And like as much as like in and of itself the music should be the music, like, you know, you want people to hear it, right? Like that's you want as many people to hear it as possible. So there's such that dichotomy in this kind of realm of music, especially now, like we've said a couple of times, where it's like, I don't know, you might want to make a full record that has a whole mood to it and a whole like aesthetic to it, even if it's not like a, you know, it doesn't have to be like a concept record or something. Yeah. But like, you know, you want to put out a full length because your favorite bands put out full lengths.
Exactly.
And like you love every track on it and you love the ebb and flow. But then you're like, oh wait, like the average person has like an attention span of a newt, right? So it's like it's so hard to balance those things. But it sounds like it still went pretty well for you guys overall. That you got.
I think it did. You know, like I don't regret it. I mean, like I know I totally just said the word like, you know, like some things I wish we could have done and like regret and all that. But like. In a sense, though, like it's a great record. I really like it, and I'm happy that it happened, and I'm happy that we did that, and I'm happy that we get to look back on that, and it's like a whole, you know, it's a whole experience. The whole, you know, like it's learning. It's learning. It's seeing what works, what doesn't work, what to improve on, and you know what to try different. And
right,
yeah, that record holds some really fond memories, and I felt like that was a really cool like representation of us at that time for sure, because we went from doing in lieu of and like wrong from right, and just and this was like a step up from that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't, at the end of the day, like to a certain extent, obviously those rollout things matter, but like if you make good music, like, and you're playing shows and you're promoting it in whatever way you do, like if you make a song that somebody connects to, you make a song somebody connects to. If you put out a full length and people really like it, that's great. Who gives a shit at the end of the day? I think sometimes, and we'll get, obviously what I really want to talk about is your newest record and stuff like that, or newest EP, I mean, and stuff like that as well. But like, like if you put something out and you love it, like that's all that really fucking matters, right? Like the rest of it will fall into place if it's like you're making music genuinely and you like and it just, I don't know, it just comes from that place, right? Like I know that sounds, sometimes I feel like I sound a little hoity-toity when I say shit like that, but you know what I mean?
No,
like,
I get it,
it's totally that
record
that way,
is such a genuine from the heart record, and every song has like, there's a song for everybody on there. There's so many different vibes, there's so many different sounds, there's so many different like cool little things here and there, and I like it, like it's a very expansive experience. And, sometimes you don't have that in this day and age. We didn't write that thinking like, oh, we're going to make a single out of this one. We're going to do like X, Y, and Z. And maybe we should have, but it was cool to like write that and bring it all together and just work on it and just have this beautiful artistic vision like come out.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely agreed. So going from that, I know with this latest EP you guys put out in 2022, Cutting Teeth. Yeah. That's when you started working with I can never say his last name, but Fred Mascherino.
It's like the cherries.
Yeah, Mascherino. Yeah. Which, for anybody that doesn't know, Colored Fred, ex Taking Back Sunday. He's also the one who owns the record label that you're on, right? Heading East. So what was the process with getting connected with him? Because obviously like that's a leg up as far as just like notoriety and all that kind of stuff. So where did that come from? And then let's get into the EP a little bit.
You see, Brandon, that's a great question. I love this story. So Chris started getting lessons from Fred. I think he saw Fred advertising like online about guitar lessons, and Chris started getting guitar lessons from Fred, and they were always like talking, and Fred's kind of local to us, which, was surprising. I didn't realize he was like that local to us without me putting out a city out there, all you, crazy people that want your louder now sign and all that. No, I'm joking. And they would just always like kind of get together, and they were talking about like our band, and Fred was checking us out and he liked us, and he was saying like, hey, maybe we could do a record together. And then we played Chameleon Club in Lancaster. We were playing Chameleon Club in Lancaster with Actor Observer, who we're actually doing a couple shows next week. They're a good friend of ours from Boston, and a couple other bands are on that show. And Chameleon Club, you're from Illinois. I don't think you do.
Yeah, but I am familiar with Chameleon Club. I've heard it referenced from people in Pennsylvania and stuff like that.
So before. There's like one big room, right? And then like below it, there's two smaller rooms. And we were in this room. I think Integrity was in the room above us. I think Integrity was playing the main room. And I'm pretty sure it was Cave In or someone was playing right next door to us. And like everybody in the music industry was like Cave In.
Yeah, right.
We were playing to like 25 people. I had a migraine playing, so like I had to like ice. I was icing my fucking head, and Fred was going to Cave In. So I heard that he was going to possibly hop over and watch our set. There's like a door in the middle of both rooms that you can kind of just walk over. And it was funny. It was right after I listened to Shane's episode with him, and I saw I noticed like his figure. And I was icing my head. I'm having the worst performance ever. And I look up and I just see like a shadowy figure, and I see the hair, and I'm like, oh shit, that's Fred. He's looking right at me. And I was nervous. I mean, like we still did good. I was in the worst pain. Like I'll get random migraines sometimes. Like it's like a once in like every like 6 month thing, but like it happens, and it sucks because it's like, it's vocals. It takes a lot out of you.
Right.
Yeah, but after the show, Fred came up and talked to me, and I was like, "Hey, I listened to your episode with Shane, and like I really like this and this and this," and we ended up having a genuine conversation about it, and we met from there. And I'm trying to think of what else really kind of conspired that night, but we all clicked. We all really clicked with Fred, and he wanted to take us under his wing, and we started writing Cutting Teeth. And I think Cutting Teeth took like a while. Like it's weird. Now that the songs are out, I don't even remember like writing them a little bit. Like I remember like 2 moments of writing those songs. Like it's been so long. And but Fred wanted to take the reins on it, and we let him, and he did an amazing job. It was one of the cool experiences of my life. Like we got to use a lot of the same like Taking Back Sunday guitars and amps, and like,
oh, that's sick.
Yeah, and like I thought that was like really cool. It was like the most professional experience that we ever had, and he honestly became like a sixth member, and just like just included himself. And yeah, it was wonderful, and we talk all the time still to this day. Like I'm happy to have him like in our camp, and like I'm happy to like feel one with him. And I remember we were finishing up the record. I think it was the last day we recorded. And okay, you know what's funny? All right, wait, rewinding. I now remember writing all of Cutting Teeth because we did it in a cabin. For whatever reason, I was thinking of Tristan's basement we used to practice in. Because I remember like a few moments from that. Then I remember actually doing it at the cabin. That just hit me. So someone in my band's going to be listening to this, and they're going to call me out on that. So I'm calling myself out on that before they do.
That's some real band stuff right there. Getting to go in a cabin and write some stuff out. That's
what 2020 did to us, man. Tristan's dad owns a cabin in the middle of the Poconos, and it's the most tiniest thing in the world with like a standalone garage kind of thing. And awesome. We wrote the EP in there. We had skeletons of like songs, and we just brought them in there like really fully fleshed out. And it was a great time. It's all a bear for my first time.
Oh really? No shit, that's awesome.
Yeah, we were joking that we were gonna see a bear, and then like I forget, someone was like outside comes like, yo, there's a bear outside, and we all like went out, and like this thing was like in between like being a cub and like an actual adult bear, and like you could tell this bear was scared as shit, and we just like we're like, yo, and we're like, I felt so bad. We were like Instagram filming and stuff, and then we were like, all right, we should probably go back in.
That's awesome.
But yeah, and then at the last day of recording, Fred was talking about shopping us out to a few labels. I don't want to really name drop them, but yeah, some pretty cool notable stuff. And we got some good reviews. It was just more so it was like a time where like none of them were really looking to sign, which is okay. It happens. I rather labels like focus on the bands they sign and take up too much of it. It's like you become like nothing to them. But Fred is like, hey, I had this idea. I've had this idea for a long time. I really want to put it. I really want to like do it. I really want to start a label. I really want to start like a collective thing where I'm like artists helping artists. And doing things one genuinely, and two just like all of us helping each other out. And I became Heading East Records, and that's who we were one of the first releases on there. I think one of the first 3 bands, and couldn't be happier, man. Fred's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, he seems like, obviously I've never met the guy. I've just like paid attention to his music and heard him on other podcasts and stuff. But seems like a guy that's just like genuinely into the music for the music, right? And the story even seems like that even more so. So it's cool that you get to be on a label with him, and he was like a big part of this latest EP, Cutting Teeth, and all that kind of stuff. So that's sick. Looking at this EP, which I'm gonna look at the track list here so I don't miss anything. You got Seasons, Colder, Shutter, Stay Pony, Golden Boy, Dollar Store, Christ. I really liked that one. In translation, you sent me the lyrics over for Stay Pony, Golden Boy specifically because, like, I talk about different things, whether it's socially or just about music industry stuff or politically or whatever else on this podcast sometimes. And like this song, I was reading through the lyrics and listening to it again today because we haven't talked about this yet, but this scheduling of this podcast has been a pretty long time coming between both you and I. This is like the 4th time we tried to schedule it. Dude. So I've listened to these songs a lot because I've prepped for it like 3 different times, right? Yeah. And I've also just put it on my playlist and listened to it in the car and everything else too. But the lyrics do really just paint a picture, I think, of, there's been a lot of talk lately on social media, if you look on Twitter from some bigger name artists or wherever.
Actually,
else,
you told me all about it. Do I stay off Twitter?
Oh, okay. So I'll name drop it because but yeah, well, that's the way to go because Twitter's a hellscape. But as an example, because he wouldn't care because he talks about this on his own podcast and stuff, but and he puts it out all over social media. But Craig Reynolds, the drummer for Straight from the Past,
is the man. I love Craig Reynolds. His podcast, dude. Like, if I have a bad day, I listen to the downbeat and I just
yeah. You just laugh your ass off, right? He should be a comedian. He had talked about doing stand up at one point. I know he should do it. But he's been kind of dropping some truths on people that maybe aren't in the music industry much, on like the reality of like kind of the fraud that can be involved in the music industry.
Absolutely.
Anything from like monthly listeners on Spotify to like people getting mad at the price of bands merch at shows to whatever else. And like people like to blame bands or have this like weird idea on like what is important, what isn't important, and what bands even have control over. And like that all came out within the last couple of weeks that he's been doing that more and more. And I was looking through the song today and the lyrics, and it really kind of coincides with that stuff where like just on like the emotional level of the song, at least to me, you could tell me if I'm wrong, but like to me, like the lyrics of it when I was reading through it and listening to it, and your vocal delivery on it is awesome, perfectly encapsulates the song.
I think it's one of my favorite songs, if not my favorite song that we ever did.
Yeah, it strikes the chord for sure. It's just about how like the music industry has really, and it's not like always nefarious people. It's more of like the system that it is, right? But like, it can't be nefarious people, but just like people wanting to do something because it's their dream, right? And like you're just like so excited to be a part of this thing that you've probably like just been so ecstatic of for so long, and then as you go along, like, and you see these things. You can be so beaten down by like the reality of the industry aspect of music. Right. So, if you don't mind, like, do you want to speak a little bit? I mean, I might've summed it up there. I might not have, but do you want to speak a little bit about what that song is about? What kind of got you to write that song? If you remember, I know it's quite a bit ago now.
I actually do this. I remember the song vividly because I was having a lot of trouble writing lyrics for Cutting Teeth because like, I was trying to like really like evolve, and I was, kind of writing like, some of the guys, like I would write lyrics and some of the guys would point out like, no, you already said this on like Martyr. You already did like this type of pattern. You did this type of phrasing. Like, and I was having a hard time. Actually, Seasons Colder is a lot about like not knowing what to write and just kind of the struggle of going through that. But that we can talk about that later. But with Save Pony, that was one of the first songs that like it all came off the dome, and it was like something I've been wanting to talk about. Minus like, I want to say I wrote like 80% of that song, minus like the part that Chris wrote where it's like what's the lyrics, second highs and second chances, like that part Chris wrote that, and which was cool because all of us like really took a hand in like writing the lyrics. Like it wasn't just on me or Tristan, right? It was nice. But the main idea from the song, like I started like, so we did an emo night kind of cover show one time at a venue near us, and the show sold out. Like it was like a small like 100-something cap venue. Like it was a brewery I used to book at. And it did really good. And yeah, it was awesome. We would do like covers and we would throw in like our own like originals. And then we got invited to DJ Emo Night LA with Matt and Casey from the Wonder Years, and that's how we met Matt. And Matt actually did Girls Night, our one single. That's kind of how that started. But right after those times, like they were maybe like within like 3 months of each other. Right after those times, that's when a lot of people were like asking us to, like, our show offers were turning into emo night show offers or playing like this emo night at this bar. And, like when emo nights and stuff were like first a thing, it was kind of just like Emo Night LA doing it. And then like all these other people started doing it. And it just kind of felt like that was like what was like suffocating like the scene a little bit. And, I don't mean like in a bad way, because I think that stuff, personally, I do think that stuff is cool. I do think it's like a fun time, and I believe people have every right to have fun however they want to do it. But however, like it was just like all our show offers were turning into emo nights, and like we're not a cover band, we're an actual band, and we want to play actual shows. And actually, little Chicago reference. I don't know if you ever listened to the band Kingmaker.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Dude. Okay. Red Shorts, those lyrics, like, I love this music, I hate these kids. Like, Red Shorts was one of the songs that really inspired Stay Pony. Like, I've always wanted to write a song about that type of stuff. And to me, Stay Pony turned into the song that, like, especially the beginning, like a perfect painted picture that I can never get. I've fallen for an aesthetic that can never love me back. It's like, I love this music, and it's doing, like, I want all of it. I want the look. I want the feeling. I want the personality. But what's it going to do back for me? Or, you know, you're seeing, like, look, I love emo music. I love our genre. I love being able to talk about, like, emotion and, like, all those things. But we do not deserve to be sad forever. Like, to me, as much as I love nostalgia and, like, you know, Tell All Your Friends is a great freaking record and, like, all that type of stuff, we would do a disservice to ourselves as people if we stayed at the bottom and did not do, like, the proper things to, like, you know, get us out there and, you know, bring us up and grow and just overall enjoy, you know, this time we have on planet Earth. And so a lot of that song, like, it's about, like, it's about when you fall in love for that aesthetic, you fall in love for that scene, you fall in love for, like, that music, and it just doesn't, like, you know, love you back in the same way. And it's like, you know, one is taking your money. Anytime you have a happy thought, you're like, no, I should be sad. I'm emo. I'm this, I'm that. And you're like, the middle of the song, actually, like, in the middle of the song, like, story wise to me, like, the Fill Up My Cup. Actually, fun fact, it's a little Asher Roth reference. I don't know. And I was just thinking, like, fill up my cup, let's get fucked up. Like, I was singing to that, but I did fill up my cup, whatever's house and cheap. Is this really everything? And to me, like, I almost picture, like, being at, shout out Voltage Lounge in Philly. I when I write lyrics like that, like, I kind of, like, picture a place. And Voltage Lounge in Philly, it's like being at the bar and you're just like, yo, give me, like, a PBR or, like, whatever's house whiskey, and then you're kind of just looking around like, damn, you know, I do this all the time. Is this really everything there is to it? Right. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. The song, So go ahead. I think I summed it up. But the song is just about, like, I love everything. I love this scene. I love this all. But, like, it, you know, it's just, I don't know. I guess. How do you think about the song? How do you think about it? So that fits a lot with it. So, like, I was thinking something along those lines that, like, I don't know. It's funny because, like, you reference all that stuff and it totally makes sense. And I did get, like, that aspect of it. And I also like, you look at, like, I looked at those lines, like the first ones you said, like, a perfect painted picture that I can never get. I fall for an aesthetic that will never love me back. Like, that fits both with what you were talking about. And I also felt like it fit with, like, a bigger, and it's fine. This is where people get different things out of different song, or out of the same song, where, like, it also is one of those things of just, like, I felt like similarly, like, the struggle of like doing something you love, like this kind of music that is very, like, I don't know, there's something about it that just, like, why people love it. It hits you in the gut. It's like people are fanatical about it in the ways that sometimes they're not about other kinds of music for a reason. Right. But at the same time, like, there's so many barriers to actually enjoying it when you're in a band, right? Like, there's so many stressors, there's so many things that make it feel like kind of still what you're talking about, but just from a different side of things that, like, you know, it's sometimes, like, you can get lost in the noise of everything that's frustrating you with the actual reality of being in this, that like, you can lose some of what you love about it in the process, or, like, in the moment it can be so frustrating, right? Like, that's what I got out of it, which is, like, a similar thing to what you actually wrote about it, right? Like, that's, and actually, speaking of that, like, now going back, sorry, I love crediting the guys, and sometimes I'm the worst at it. So I want to say 70% of lyrics for me, 30% of lyrics for Chris, because now I remember this. In the part before the last part, he does, like, there's something I can't forget. I don't know. He's trying to remember how he does, like, the lyrics. It's something I can't forget. It comes out the best. No, it comes out the worst, but I need it. It's like that frustration you're talking about. Like, it's that frustration. Like, it hits you, but then you're like, oh, I need this, but I'm frustrated. It's like, man, like I said, I love this music. I hate everything else about it. Right. And I think that's it's a good, pretty universal topic, I think, for people, whether you're just, like, a huge fan of the music, or
and not one of those toxic people that maybe the song can be a bit about that can make you frustrated about the music. Or you're in a band, like, you know, people start writing music like this because you know, it connects to you, and you're just, like I said about like releasing stuff even, right? Where like you're just focused on the actual making of the songs and wanting to perform them live. And it's all the noise around it. And a lot of times anymore, it's all the things you feel like you have to do just to be in a band that like grows, or even like gets people to shows, or you get in front of new faces or whatever else, that like you can get so lost in like the day-to-day or week-to-week bullshit that you're like this is really taking away from why I want to do this in the first place. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
absolutely.
So it's kind of like a very universal song that I think anyone that's like passionate about anything art-wise can really get something out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's coming from someone who every day I work in the music industry, and I mean, it's great. I love it, and I love being around music. I feel like I'm somewhere where I actually like want to be, but you know, that doesn't mean there isn't things that like tick me off about it, or like there's things I don't like, or you know, in times where I'm like. You know, sometimes if I have a full-time work week, I'm in front of a stage 5, maybe 6 days a week. And then it's like, there's that one show that's happening on one of my days I'm off, and maybe I'll go, but do I want to, I need to reset and not be near a PA speaker or like.
Absolutely. Also save your ears probably, right?
Exactly. I love being able to pay like my $10-15 at the door, go in, buy a beer, enjoy a show. I love doing that. I also love just having a moment of freaking silence. There was like a point where I was like, man, I've been at a show for every day for 2 weeks.
Oh my God. Yeah. My ears would be blown out. I get tinnitus as it is from being at like, just being at a very seldom one. Right. But like, I was talking to actually another guy who did the first episode of this podcast from his band in Michigan, a metalcore band Whole Heart. We're like the problem with being in a band and you're also so passionate about music is like, I don't know, like you end up, you know, you want to be supportive of the scene, and you want to be supportive of like an up and coming band or a band you haven't heard of or a friend's band or whatever else. But like we all work, right? Like people like, or especially you're in a live music place all the time, or even if you're not, you're working some regular job. And like the one time you can get it in you to go be at a live performance, it might be your band. You know what I mean? And then it's like, and then you're like, you know, he was like, and Alec, if he hears this, is like such a sweet guy, but he was just like, I feel bad. Sometimes I realize like I want people to support me more than I'm realizing I'm supporting them, just cause like I'm burnt out from everyday life. Right. Mm-hmm. Like, and it's just how it goes, especially when, you know, so many bands, especially yours or other bands like yours, where like you're like a very active, you know, you're an active band, but it's you're not at the level of a lot of the older bands or the more legacy bands that like that's your job, right? You have so many other things you have to do that it's like it's essentially, you know, at least a second part-time job that you're doing that you love. Dude, like I'm not saying we're all sitting here complaining, you know, but like you're doing that and then you hope you break even on what you're doing, and that's a whole other side of things or whatever else. And that's where like burnout and everything else you just listed, man, like those emo night things are such a double-edged sword, because I'm not a hater on nostalgia, right? Like I think nostalgia is a fun thing. Cover sets occasionally could be a fun thing. People get engaged to it. It's a good way to get your band out there, maybe to people or something. But like at the end of the day, that's not what you're trying to do. And I could totally see that being like, are we like, is this like, are people trying to make this be what we do? And it's like, no, that's not why I got into playing music. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks for going through that. Yeah. Again, anyone listening, Say Pony Golden Boy off Cutting Teeth, very, very good song. I love the lyrics and the performance of it and the instrumentals and everything else. There is one other song on this record that I don't actually have the lyrics to, but I listened to it a bunch. I wonder if you could maybe go into it a bit, or if there's any other ones after this too you'd want to. But the song right after that on the EP, Dollar Store Christ, I thought was interesting, because like, you know, this record does have a lot of ebb and flow from like the heavier vocals to more, you know, melodic style, whatever else. But that song, I don't know, there's something about the lyrics that I obviously couldn't type them all out when I was listening to it, because I listen to music 95% of the time in the car. But what was the kind of thought or the concept behind that song, and what kind of got you to write that one?
Yeah, actually, it's funny. I think I don't know. I didn't write that much of it, actually. That was more of a Tristan song. That was like more of like I'm trying to think of like who exactly wrote what on it. I think we all kind of had a part, but I feel like Tristan was the main driving force behind that song, if I'm not mistaken. So he might be able to, like, if he was on the podcast, if he was in the room, he would, tell you a whole book about it. But
yeah,
it kind of comes from a place of like Cutting Teeth was definitely a pandemic record. And there was definitely like things like going on politically, like when it comes to like, news on all the time. And, we're in this age that like we're constantly like, on our phones, like seeing like what's going on in the world, and it makes the world so much of a smaller place when it is a really big place, but it brings it right to you. And I think we've all had our fair share of like arguing with like parents and like loved ones about like, what's on TV and like, the emotions that come with that. And, it's a Dollar Store Crisis mainly just kind of about like those interactions that, you have with like your parents or your family, or just like people, like not like strangers on the internet, but like those people in like your immediate circle, like, or like your aunts, your uncles. Like you can't go to a family party the same, or you can't go to Thanksgiving the same way because, someone's talking about like this and that. And it's just, it's, I would say that's probably like the main gist of the song. I don't want to say the wrong thing because I didn't really write that much of it, but dude, it's one of my favorite songs totally too. Yeah, and that song fucking bangs. That's like the beginning is like balance and composure, and the end is like stick to your guns counterparts. Like that is the shit to me. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I was going to say that's one thing that's really cool about this record is like when I first listened through it, because I want to say, because the first time I heard your band was not from that EP. It was from something, a couple of years ago when I first joined the group, maybe, or I don't remember, to be honest. But I was listening through it, and, from the first couple of songs and everything else, just like the ebb and flow of it that you guys do, kind of like what you referenced to with the start of the band, where you guys had these kind of different influences. You can really hear that even in your newest EP, that like, I was hearing it and I was like, oh, okay, this is like I'm trying to think like a good example of like a classic post-hardcore band, but like, you know what I mean? Like this is like a kind of cool noodly riffs with somebody like ripping screams over the top of it, and like this is great. And then like the next thing I hear, you reference balance and composure. You hear like kind of that like emo indie vibe that they would, or the kind of like emo revival music that they made in it. And I was like, oh, I was not expecting that. Just like, but it flowed really well. So that's what's cool about it. I
clean sing on that song too. Like I clean, like, I've only clean sung. There are like 3 songs in the EP I clean sung on, and like that was like one of them. Like I do like subtle, like I do some of the lines in, like the chorus and like the verses, and like it's a very flowy like indie rock vibe, and it just at the end it just gets heavy as shit.
yeah, which is great. Like it's good to have that ebb and flow, because I forget, it might have been it was Landon Tours from the Plot and You that
like Landon's sick. I love Landon.
And he referenced something, it was forever ago, where he was like, people were asking why they changed their music so much or whatever else with their last couple of releases, which I absolutely love. But he brought up a good point that he was like, if you're always heavy, if you're always at 100, like there's nowhere to go. Like it doesn't feel like, you need dynamics, and you need the ebb and flow. And like for an EP, for a 5-song EP, you guys have a lot of that on this. So again, like anybody listening, I'm trying to get better at talking to people that aren't here when I'm doing these podcasts. I'm getting there. Yeah. But anybody listening, like whether you're more into like the kind of emo revival, melodic music, or like post-hardcore, have you with some breakdowns, whatever else, like this EP does have something in it that you'll definitely get out of. So again, thanks so much for talking about this, Billy. I really appreciate it. Anything, because this came out in 2022, obviously that's not that long ago. Are you guys working on any
August, I think.
Yeah, right.
Or so it was end of July. It was, I don't know. I forget what it was. I know the release show was like August, and I think it was like the first. Like, I don't know, July or August, one of the two. I forget. I can't think of it right now.
Right. So a pretty recent release. But you said you're always working on new music. Have you guys worked on anything recently? Is there any thought behind that, or are you guys kind of just hitting the ground running with these songs live when you can and all those kind of things?
So trying to think. I mean, we've been playing shows lately. Like after Cutting Teeth, we did like a 4-day run, and then we played Underground Arts at the Color Fred, and we actually just played Kung Fu Necktie with freaking Boys of Fall Great band.
Yeah, I saw that. That's so sick.
Yo, that show sold out. We did not know what to expect, and it was a reschedule from July. Shit sold out. Those guys were awesome.
That's awesome.
We bumped into each other at the same cheesesteak place, offered us to sit at their table, talked to us. Like, they were like a genuinely good, cool, like everything you can say about a good band is them. I think they're awesome. Yeah, and around like last time too, we played Kawanashi. We played with Kawanashi on one of their like Never Home days, and like that sold out, and like that was like cool. That was at Philadelphia in Philly. Like we were just on a streak of like playing shows, and we definitely sat down to try to like flush some ideas out. And I mean, the process is starting. Like we're starting to think about it. I don't want to give too much away, but like sometimes we go, of course, like. Sometimes we go into the studio and we're like a little too over prepared, and we're kind of thinking like maybe we can go in a little less prepared and kind of see what can come out of us in the moment. So yeah, I don't know. We do have ideas, but I don't know. We'll see what goes. I think we're trying to go into studio sometime this spring and see what us and I don't want to say. I'm gonna say Papa Fred. I don't have a funny nickname for him yet. I don't know if I want to call him that. I don't know, but see what we can all cook up.
Yeah, no, that's sick. Again, like, I just, you said you guys are always working on things, so I figured I'd ask. That's great. Those shows, like, that's the way to go too, man. Like, talking about like getting out to people. There's still 2023. I still think there's nothing better I just know this as a fan of music. Yeah. There's still nothing better than opening for a bigger band that will like make sense for your music to get new listeners and to kind of get your name out there, right? So like those two shows, that's like that you just referenced, like that's like just a perfect encapsulation that like live shows are still the way to go if you do it right when it comes to promotion and all that kind of stuff, even in the digital age we're in. You know what I mean? Yeah. All right. So before this has been great. So before I let you go, I'm going to ask you two questions. I've been doing this off and on with some bands. I'm trying to like flesh out some kind of weird thing to do at the end. Every other podcast that's better than mine does it, so I figured I'd try. But first one I would do. This would probably be a good one for you guys, since like it could manifest at some point, right? If you're the opening band of a 3-band bill, right? Like, so it could be any band. It could be a band that's no longer around if you want. It could be bands that are like hitting it strong now. If you could open for like the perfect dream 2-band bill, or 3-band bill, two other bands, whether it was a tour or a one-off show, whatever else, who would you want to open for? I know it's a tough question, man.
No, I gotta look at my wall real quick. I gotta look at my stuff. Dude, fuck, man. What this is such a sick question. It's weird because there's some bands that like we've opened for that like I've wanted to open for.
Could be them again. You know what I mean?
I don't know. I mean, some of those. I don't know. Let me think. I gotta think. From my perspective, Thursday and Pianos We Got a Tea, but we can play with those two bands. I'm in. I know for some of the other guys, it might be like LS Dunes or I don't know. Coheed and Cambria would be kind of sick.
All those bands named are great, but for you, you would say Pianos Become the Teeth, and you say Thursday, right?
Yeah, I would kill it open for Thursday.
Yeah, that would be sick, and that would work for your guys' music a lot too. So that's really cool. And then this one's a little tougher actually, so this is gonna be even worse. But but say hypothetically, I think this one's a little more fun though, to be honest. Hypothetically, you're not in this band, right? You do the vocals, or you could do something else, whatever else. You could play bass if you wanted to, but you're not in your band hypothetically, but you can have any, like, it's like the dream roster. Like you're pulling, say you have a 5-piece band from any of your favorite bands that you listen to, whatever else. Who would you pull into your band? Say you're the vocalist. You get to pull in any guitar player, bass, drummer, whatever. Who would you pull into to make your dream band?
Fuck, dude, I've never thought about this question ever. Never thought about this. There's too many good people. There's too many amazing freaking people. I don't know, man. This I feel like I'm building isles and glaciers right now. Like that's what I think.
Yeah, that's kind of what it ends up being with everybody I've talked to about it. No worries.
Dude, I don't know because. All right, let's think about drums. If I were to do drums, I'm like, I have records over here. I'm like looking at these records. Like, if I had drums, I don't know. I mean, dude, I'm in a band with those people already. Like, you know, like I'm in a band.
That could be
like,
the answer, man.
Yeah.
That could be the answer.
I mean,
you know,
listen, if the Dahlia ever gets back together and need a third vocalist, hit me up. But like, you know, like, yeah. But honestly, no. I'm in a band with some of my favorite musicians ever, and yeah, to me, like, I don't know. That's why I don't even think about this question because I'm like, nah, dude, these guys are talented as shit, and they're my best friends.
And you know what? They'll enjoy that if they hear this. That'll be the right answer anyway for the PR for the band.
I'm like hoping so because like I'm making sure I get all the credits right because like I don't, you know, I do a lot of the lyric writing and stuff. Like I do more of like the booking and like all that type of side. So like I'm like in my head, I'm like, all right, did I get these credits right? So I hope they hear that and they're like, all right, you get to pass.
They'll fact check it. They'll yell at us later, right? It'll be fine. No,
exactly.
But again, Billy, thanks for coming on, man. And one more thing, you can plug, or two more things, I guess. If you can plug where to find your band, whether it's, you know, your Bandcamp, whatever else, or socials.
Yeah.
And tell me what song we're gonna play at the end of this for people to hear at the end.
Ooh, okay. So where our name is spelled kind of like we always like spell it like amora. It's kind of like Deftones, like Deftones. We had a little name issue, so the O on Spotify and like all that is actually a 0. MySpacey. Yes. Trying to maybe one day that'll be fixed, but who knows? So when you go on stuff at AM0RAPA, that's on everything. You can do Facebook, Instagram. We even have a Twitter. I don't really use it because you know, dude, Twitter is a cesspool, and that scares me. And you know, but yeah, you can find us everywhere on with that in and of itself. And then what was the second? Oh wait, what song are we playing at the end of this? Right?
Yep.
Dude, honestly, Stay Poet Golden Boy. That song just goes right in. No intro, no nothing, just bam.
And we talked about it'd be good for people to hear kind of where we're coming from on that and all that kind of stuff. So that sounds good. So we'll play.
Also that song fucking slaps. Sorry.
Yeah, it does. Stay Pony Golden Boy off the EP Cutting Teeth from Amora. Billy, thanks so much for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
Anytime, man. Thanks for having me, Brandon.
So it comes afterwards, so I need